Okay, second show tonight. Evening, everybody. Happy Friday. Hope everybody has a good weekend. Stay safe and warm. And different time tonight. Paul, where's everybody at? Why you go? Yeah, we had bad weather today, and I figured go on twice. Nothing going on. Well, I got my sports to watch, but there's a lot of intel out. I just found two 15-minute one from Telegram that's pretty good. But I want to play two Patriot Princess, then a few short ones, and then we'll get to that. Billy Bean was good this afternoon. People probably finishing up dinner time, so I'll wait a few minutes here. Yep. Yeah, I did Death Clock lady earlier. Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and get a head start right now. So get going here. Hope I can make it to 9 o'clock. Daniel. Anybody see this one yet?
He said anyone watching J.D. Vance in this White House press conference is getting a lesson in Leadership 101. Anyone watching J.D. Vance. Like watch, like the Mickey clock? And a lesson in Leadership 101? Like QPost 101. Look closely at QPost 101. It says J.D. Then he goes on to say, we're lucky to have these two at this crucible moment. What? Don't you mean crucial moment? No, he said crucible. Do you know what a crucible is? It's like a pot, a vessel that's usually used in labs or foundries to withstand the heat, high temperatures, to be able to melt precious metals down like gold or silver. Crucible. Interesting, Flynn. But it also can be used metaphorically, like an extreme test or trial with really hard circumstances. Maybe we're about to hit a crucible moment in America. Well, let's look closely at the video of JD speaking to the press. All of a sudden, there's this really loud ticking sound, and it throws him off his game. And he mentions it, and he says it's a broken camera.
A father of 3 young kids, a lot of kids, a lot of people in my generation. What's that going on there? Is that normal? Okay. CNN installed this broken camera just to throw me off my game, but it's not going to work. So here's the simple fact here.
Broken camera 106, middle finger.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
At this point in the game, everything is a con. The next day, President Trump went to the Ford plant and flipped the bird, the middle finger. But look closely at the video footage of President Trump. He says Q twice. So Q, 204. The final countdown, 204. Let justice be served, 204. 116, 204. 116. Back from the dead, 116. I am ready, I am Q, 116. 2, 116. JD said it was a broken camera, 106. Middle finger 106. Look closely at Q post 106. Was that a command sent from POTUS? Whatever is happening now. Nothing is a coincidence. We are at war. What if we just got a go message from the Commander-in-Chief, General Flynn, and POTUS, Trump? Everything is a calm. President Trump said Q 102, homecoming 102, Q post 3691, Snowden, homecoming 2020. President Trump just went to Davos, Switzerland, and announced to the whole world that the 2020 election was null and void and fraudulent, and people are about to get prosecuted for what they did.
It never started, and it wouldn't have started if the 2020 U.S. presidential election weren't rigged. It was a rigged election. Everybody now knows that. They found out. People will soon be prosecuted for what they did. It's probably breaking news, but it should be. It was a rigged election. You can't have rigged elections.
And what if this ties into Q post 3691, Snowden, 2020, homecoming? What if he's coming back into the picture? What if he has evidence and proof of people hacking into our election? And look at what President Trump said. He said, Q 102, break that down, 102. That's 10 and 2, just like the Mickey clock. Everything is a calm. And Michael Flynn said in his X post to watch JD Vance. And look closely at Q post 108. It connects to Q post 101. Extraction order, 0200 Zulu, 0200 Zulu, go message to BO. Did we just get a go message from the Commander-in-Chief, Flynn, and POTUS, Donald Trump? What if somehow General Flynn is still the head of the military and he's the Commander-in-Chief, and Donald Trump is still POTUS, the president, because the 2020 election is proven null and void and fraudulent? So did we just get a go message from the Commander-in-Chief and POTUS that Barack Obama is about to be extracted and arrested? What if this is exactly like JFK said in his speech and Ezra Cohen-Watnick said in his speech in 2017? This is a new and different kind of war, World War III, and it takes new and different kind of war tactics to fight it. What if this war required all hands on deck, including we the people? And that's why they weaponized us with the truth through a grassroots movement. And that's why they're trying to speak to us through code. What if everything is a comm?
Are you new
Middle
to
finger
my
106,
channel?
broken camera 106,
I think
Q-post
you're,
106.
yeah, been
Was that a
here quite
command sent
while,
from
so-
POTUS? Nothing is a coincidence. We're at war.
Okay, that's the first one. I got the second one coming up. Five minutes.
Video footage leaked, saying that the ice
Well, I've
was
been doing
melting
this for
away
5 years.
and alien spaceships were being revealed from underneath the ice. What if there's top secret military intelligence technology that's been hidden there by
JJ,
the bad guys?
can you talk to that new person?
Now, how many of you know about the object in Greenland? A couple of you, okay. Well, for those of you that don't know, there is a spacecraft that has melted out of the ice in Greenland. As you know, the North Pole has melted completely. You can go from London to Moscow or to Russia by going over the North Pole now. All the ice cap is gone. The last place that has ice on it was Greenland. Greenland had a 18,000-foot ice cap on it. Well, the spacecraft that is anchored in the center of Greenland created the last ice age 50,000 years ago. It's a weather machine. It's 55 miles wide, 300 miles long, and 2 miles high. People that lived in it were called the Moys.
Yeah, I think he's new.
You draw a straight line from the spacecraft to the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C., through the Yucatan Peninsula Great Pyramid at Mitsubishi, and ends up on Easter Island where the Moys have been dug out of this dirt. The heads on Easter Island, well, 2 years ago, they finally went ahead and they excavated, and they're all 65 to 85-foot people, full body carvings. And these were the people that lived in the spacecraft that was uncovered that's melting out of the ice in Greenland. So when you think we've been alone, these people have been up there for 50,000 years. The spacecraft is still active after 50,000 years. It has a 200-mile dampening field where no electrons can flow into it. In 1947, a B-52 bomber flew into that pattern, into the dampening field when trying to fly between Maine and London. As a result of that, they lost power and crashed in Greenland. As they sent in rescue B-52 bombers to rescue them, they hit that same dampening field, but they veered off. They just ricocheted off it. By testing, trying to get to these guys, they were able to bring a circumference and find out that there was an object 200 miles to the center of this field. On the southwest corner of Greenland, there is a small community. It's the only community on the island of Greenland. That community is a military post, CIA, that uses a compressed air generator to operate diesel engines to run a Caterpillar to run back and forth 200 miles from the base to the object in Greenland. A lot of our technology comes from the reverse engineering out of the spacecraft. It is still functional and is still in operation. So it's pretty important what this thing is. All the nations worldwide are up there with the United Nations, and they're all acting, working together.
What if Edward Snowden is coming back to tell us about it again? Remember, he came out with the articles about HAARP, explaining how the bad guys were using it nefariously, using electromagnetic wavelengths to mess with our brainstem and also manipulate the weather. And remember, in military, everything is a comm. Recently, President Trump went to the Ford plant and said, "You," and gave the middle finger. Q102, Homecoming 102, Q-Post 3691, Snowden, Homecoming 2020. And what if Greenland is crucial to the safety of America and the whole world? What if there's hidden technology there that used to be controlled by the bad guys, but now the good guys are in control?
I'm okay. I'm happy with what I got. I've been over 1 million views and got 1,900 subs. So I'm good. But if you don't like my channel, you're welcome to stay. Just be respectful. That's all I'm asking. The next one is 5 minutes. Did anybody see this one?
Deadly pandemic. Number one.
Thank you.
If there really is a pandemic, then why don't we hear the constant wail of ambulance sirens throughout the day and night? Number two. If there really is a pandemic, then why are all of the undertakers saying that business is either normal or less than usual? Number three. If there really is a pandemic, then why don't we see endless queues of people at cemeteries and crematoriums burying their loved ones? Number four. If there really is a pandemic, then why are all the statistics saying that the death rate was within normal parameters last year? Number five. If there really is a pandemic, then why have all the normal influenza deaths almost disappeared? Number six. If the first lockdown worked, then why are we doing it again? Number seven. If the lockdowns didn't work, then why are we doing the same thing again? Expecting a different outcome from the same procedure is a clear sign of insanity. Number eight. Why is the government listening to their own very small panel of experts and refusing to listen to the vast majority of doctors, nurses, and health experts? Number nine. Why do we see scenes of pandemonium in hospitals on TV when in reality they're all empty?
Where's all the sick people? Where's all the COVID patients? Where's all the COVID patients? Where are they?
Number 10. If there really is a pandemic, then why are there thousands of nurses out of work? Number 11. If the pandemic started in 2019, then how did all the governments around the world order and deliver COVID-19 PCR test kits the year before in 2018? Number 12. If used and discarded masks could be highly contagious, then why do we see thousands of them littering the streets and countryside? Number 13. If there really is a worldwide pandemic, then why do the rules and regulations differ greatly from city to city and country to country? Number 14. If COVID doesn't affect children, then why are the schools shut? Number 15. If masks work, then why haven't we been using them every year for the flu? Number 16. Why have we never seen people keeling over and dying in the streets? Number 17. If we should avoid crowds of people, then why are the supermarkets that can hold hundreds of people open and your corner shop with only room for 3 people shut? Number 18. Why is the government calling positive PCR tests cases and not just a positive result? Number 19. Why has the BBC and all other media outlets failed to tell you that the World Health Organization has published an update saying that the PCR tests are unreliable and should not be used? Number 20. If a cough or sneeze droplet can carry up to 30 feet, then why are we socially distancing only 6 feet? Number 21. Why are you okay with rubbing poison into your skin 10 times a day? Number 22. Why do we need an experimental DNA-changing vaccine for a virus with a 99.97% recovery rate? Number 23. If the vaccine works, then why can you still catch and transmit the disease after you get the vaccine? Number 24. If you've had the vaccine, then why do you still have to wear a mask and social distance? Number 25. How many people do you personally know who have died from COVID? And then compare that number to how many people you know who have vaccine-damaged family members. Open your eyes, everyone, and look around. Ask yourself next time you leave the house, am I really seeing a deadly pandemic? If the answer to this last question is yes, then you really need to turn off your television. It is much easier to fool somebody than convince them that they have been fooled.
Okay, I'm glad I found that one. I wasn't sure about that one. Did anybody see this clip yesterday? About 5 minutes, I think.
Every single time I communicate with you, I am always professional with you. And it requires other people to contain your Tourette's syndrome.
If you don't like it, you don't have to be here.
Oh, have her treated this fucking country. Why are you so spasm out? My spasm. Absolutely. Look behind you. Why should I? I'm communicating with you. Right? Look at your face. Trust me, I'm using a lot. See how many people are constraining you? Look at me. Total control over my mind and body.
Hey, the meeting will be in order.
Mr. Chairman, will you?
No shame. No shame. Treating these people that way.
This guy is threatening my family.
Members of the audience,
my children.
members of the audience will please sit down or remove themselves from the committee room.
Rape my children, you sick bastard. Rape my children.
Sit down, please.
Thank you, Officer Fanone. Mr. Chairman, please control the deranged observer, Mr. Rakeland, so he doesn't create any other problems with us today.
Imagine what he did on January 6th with that demeanor. Look at my demeanor. Complete professional here. I stuck my hand out to say hello to Mr. Fanone, and then he just completely flipped the switch. His Tourette's kind of kicked in. You got to remember when you read his book, he's a drug user. He's an alcoholic. Spent quite a bit of time drinking alcohol. He made me right now. His face was twitching completely out of control. Additionally, if you refer back to his book, he's mentioned several times where he likes to drink at 2, 3 in the morning, communicating with Nancy Pelosi. We've all seen it as Nancy Pelosi, this former Speaker of the House, is also likes to imbibe alcohol. So, bottom line here is, I wanted to display to the entire committee that this is the U.S. Metropolitan Police Department officer. If he's going to act that way with somebody professional, just introducing and saying hello to him, imagine what he did on January 6th. These are the 4 witnesses, the U.S. Capitol Police and Metropolitan Police Department officers that lost their cool that day and attacked unarmed peaceful.
Where did you find it?
Girl. On January 6th. That's the law. My name is Ivan.
Oh, I don't have Facebook. Sorry, you can tell Chad.
You're making a spectacle unnecessary. We will.
So that was yesterday. The guy interrupted the meeting. We're not ready for that yet. We'll do this one.
And it's shocking the world. 2026 is turning into a very strange year. The U.S. just carried out a unique operation in Venezuela that could change everything. What does this mean for where the world is heading? Because Jesus said something 2,000 years ago that suddenly feels like it was written for this exact moment. You will be shocked when you find the 4 strangest things about this operation and what it means for Christians. Number 1, the announcement that shook the world. January 3rd, 2026. Early morning. While most of America is still asleep, President Trump posts on Truth Social at 4:21 a.m. Eastern Time. Then he holds a press conference from Mar-a-Lago. Last night, U.S. forces executed Operation Absolute Resolve, a precise law enforcement action with military support. Nicolas Maduro and his wife are in U.S. custody. He calls it justice. He compares it to history. The 1989 arrest of Panama's Manuel Noriega, another leader accused of drug trafficking and corruption,
I'll play it on my
removed
phone.
by American forces. But Trump is careful with his words. He doesn't call it an invasion. He doesn't call it regime change. He frames it as enforcement. Enforcement of a 2020 U.S. indictment charging Maduro. Within minutes, the world reacts. Markets shake. Oil prices fluctuate wildly. Venezuela holds the largest proven oil reserves on the planet, and nobody knows what happens to them now. World leaders scramble to respond. Russia condemns it as aggression. China demands an emergency UN session. Cuba declares 3 days of mourning. Latin America splits down the middle. Some governments quietly relieved, others publicly outraged. If this was just law enforcement, why did it require over 150 aircraft? Why the military precision? Why did it look and sound like war? Now watch what happens next. Within hours, international condemnation. Reuters and Al Jazeera documented the global reaction. And here's what you need to understand. Something big just happened in Venezuela. And
I hope that one was okay. Okay, Carol. How long is it, Carol? Ah. Yeah, it was finished.
Project Warp Speed, which is the implementation of the vaccine. Well, that was the negative Trump. You have the original Trump, who is operating in a base located in Cheyenne Mountain, and he's always there. And then you have his actor double that looks just like him. That is the Trump that we see in the White House. That is the Trump that we see in the press. And then you have a third Trump who is there in case the double take's taken out. As you know, there's been multiple assassination attempts. Now, the fourth Trump, that is the negative Trump. That is the Trump that was generated by the negative AI, that is already sentient, that is already in control of the world's satellite systems, infrastructures. And that Trump is the one that is pushing Project Warp Speed. The real Trump is actually working with the aliens. So yeah, there are multiple Trumps, just like there are multiple aliens.
Now, if you would punch up Dr. Carson, Ben Carson, when Trump called him a pedophile, and the next day he joined Trump. And the guy asked him, see, every now and then you slip and say something? He said, why'd you do that? He said, it's two Trumps.
There are two different Donald Trumps. There's the one you see on the stage, and there's the one who's very cerebral, sits there and considers things very carefully. You can have a very good conversation with him. And that's the Donald Trump that you're going to start seeing more and more of right now.
I think there are two Donald Trumps. There's the public version, and people see that, and I don't know what they see exactly, but it seems to have worked over my lifetime. But it's probably good
right now. It looks like it is. His right people is not the same size as his left. Look, they're now fucking back.
You know how there's always been for the last 4 years this collusion about Biden's a clone? Well, they're saying it now about Trump. This is Trump as we know it, but this is typical. Nothing about this seems strange. This is the Trump I've always seen. Yeah, he's talking about the war. So this is recent. Russia, right? Now I'm going to show you the Trump that looks strange. Look at that face. Look how skinny this man is. Look at that face. So, let's see if I can zoom in on this thing. But it just doesn't look like the Trump that we see.
Elon Musk doesn't really look like Musk.
It's close, but it almost looks like a body double. It doesn't quite look like the Trump we know.
Sorry, I'm doing the best I can.
Looks like he's got a cleft lip.
And he's really skinny. And his face.
Alan Dershowitz, and he said the legal thing about it 4 more years. And I said, Alan, I agree with you. So we can do it. Think about it.
Okay, is that a troll? I think we better block this idiot. Thanks, Carol. That was good.
There's two Trumps. Okay. The one in the red tie is the real.
Let me see your channel. Do you have a channel on YouTube? Okay, I'm going to do one more 10-minute. Bye-bye. One lady on TikTok, and I'm going to do that 2-part one I was talking about. Did we play this one?
judgment may be even more questionable, but her merch game is strong. Let's take a look at some things I found that you can buy if you are a huge fan of Fani Willis. First of all, let's start with this amazing t-shirt. Fani Willis is
I didn't play this one.
I believe what they were trying to say is Fani Willis is coming, like that was some type of threat, or it could be something else. But either way, yeah, they couldn't even get the word coming right, sadly. I'll just leave that right there.
7 minutes.
And if you want something with a quote on it, we've got this very serious picture of Fani Willis with the quote, "The only thing can do a woman for him is make him a sandwich." That is about as nonsensical as many of her decisions have been. I do believe that they were trying to quote her from when she was talking about when she first met Nathan Wade, and he said to her that he thought the only thing a woman could do for him was make him a sandwich. But yet again, not quite getting it right, are we? Let's move on. For those of you that are into trading cards, you can get yourself for the low price of less than $25. Oh boy, a trading card with Fani Willis's picture on it. I have no idea. Don't ask me. I have no idea they have trading cards for this kind of stuff. For those of you that are people of faith, let me know what you think of this one, because this is kind of offensive to me. It is the Fani Willis Devotional Saint Prayer Saint Candle. And if you zoom in on it, it literally says Saint Fani Willis on it. So yeah, not loving that. Now, let's just back off a little bit to something a little basic. This is just a simple, artistic picture of Fani Willis, but maybe not quite as simple as we thought, because the name of this t-shirt, available on Amazon, is the Fani Willis Subtle Perfection. I'm not so sure you can call yourself subtle if you're also calling yourself perfect, but hey, that's just me. Again, kind of that Andy Warhol vibe if you're into it. This one's called the Ultimate Superstar. And of course, if you have enough t-shirts, that's no problem. You can go ahead and get yourself the throw pillow. Low price of $19.99. Get them while they're hot, folks. And this last one, if you're a Young Thug fan especially, I'm very curious what you think about this. The front of the t-shirt, not exactly anything to write home about, but look at the back. The back of this actually seems to celebrate some of the pleas that went down in the YSL case, as well as her raiding Young Thug's house in May of 2022. We know how that turned out. He had to be given all of his stuff back except for that mysterious watch. And then it talks about witness testimony, the election case. It's kind of a bizarre back of a t-shirt because all of this obviously blew up in her face. But I don't love the fact that people are celebrating those pleas, especially if you know the kind of heavy-handed, awful things that went down with the prosecution in that case. So, of course, that's not it. There's more. All right, so this book is called Find Me the Votes. The tease is a hard-charging Georgia prosecutor, a rogue president, and the plot to steal an American election. It's written by Michael Isikoff and Daniel Klaidman. Now, the funny thing about this book is it came out in January of 2024. So right before the whole thing blew up with her, Fani Willis and Nathan Wade. And so it's kind of funny to me that in the review, this is on Amazon, they describe Find Me the Votes, the book, as investigative journalism at its finest. Was it? Because the whole thing with her and Nathan Wade was going on right in front of them. And apparently they missed it. And what's even funnier is it came out, like I said, in January of 2024. They missed the most important stuff. It's a very fawning and flattering portrait of Fani Willis. Can you imagine writing a book about the Titanic? And you say all these amazing things about what a great ship this is. It's unsinkable. And the book ends as the Titanic is leaving port in Southampton, England. What would you think of a book like that? So I guess my question to the authors is there going to be a sequel? Because y'all missed the elephant in the room. And I think it's time for an update, maybe. All right, one more thing I do want to say, because I have some bonus content for you. All the stuff I just showed you, I have no idea whether that stuff was authorized by Fani Willis or not. It's entirely possible that it was not, that she has no idea, that she's not making a dime off of any of this stuff. However, there was a time, and I could not find it here January 2026, but there was a time when she did have her own merch that she was selling. And it was pretty hilarious all by itself. I did a video about it back in October 2024. And for those of you that missed it, here it is.
So apparently Fani Willis has merch that you can purchase. So here are some of my favorites with a little added commentary.
I had to stop it because of the music. It was only 30 seconds. That was a good one. So the next two parts is 15. Let me know if you guys like it. I'll continue.
This isn't a peace plan anymore. It's starting to look like a governing model. And that distinction changes everything. On January 16th, the White House announced something called the Board of Peace. And the composition stopped me cold.
Anybody see this?
World Bank presidents, private equity billionaires, figures who don't represent nations in the traditional sense. They represent institutions, economic power, influence without borders. There are critical pieces to what was just revealed. The first few will reframe how you understand modern diplomacy. But the last, a phrase in Revelation 17 about rulers who receive power without kingdoms, that's the one that makes this board look less like politics and more like prophecy. The 10 kings of Revelation don't need crowns. They need coordination. Number 1, what the Board of Peace is. Let me break this down in simple terms, because the way it's been reported can be confusing. The Board of Peace is not a peace treaty. It's not a diplomatic statement. It's not a temporary negotiating committee that will dissolve once a ceasefire holds. What was announced is a governing oversight structure, an international body designed to manage, coordinate, and enforce the implementation of peace. That word, enforce, is significant. It implies authority, real authority, the kind of authority that Revelation describes being concentrated in the hands of end-times rulers. And here's what's prophetically significant about enforcement. It doesn't require invasion. It requires cooperation. It requires voluntary compliance. It requires exactly the kind of framework we're watching being built. Hold on to that thought. We'll come back to it. Its first mission is Gaza, specifically Phase 2 of Trump's 20-point plan to end the Gaza conflict. This phase involves stabilization, reconstruction, demilitarization of Hamas, and the establishment of a technocratic Palestinian committee to administer the territory. But here's what's
This one okay, you guys?
Trump's Board of Peace reveal is coming soon. Kings without kingdom isn't just advising, it's overseeing. It's prophetically significant about enforcement. It doesn't require invasion. It requires cooperation. It requires voluntary compliance. It requires exactly the kind of framework we're watching being built. Hold on to that thought. We'll come back to it. Its first mission is Gaza, specifically Phase 2 of Trump's 20-point plan to end the Gaza conflict. This phase involves stabilization, reconstruction, demilitarization of Hamas, and the establishment of a technocratic Palestinian committee to administer the territory. But here's what's significant. The board isn't just advising, it's overseeing. It has authority over reconstruction funding, security arrangements, governance frameworks, and international coordination. Think about what that means. This isn't diplomats offering suggestions. This is an international body with actual oversight power over a piece of territory and its future. And here's where it gets interesting. Many of the people being invited to this board don't represent traditional nation states in the usual sense. They represent institutions. They represent economic power. They represent influence that crosses borders without armies or flags. When you see the names, this will become concrete. Remember what Daniel said about the covenant? It would be with many, not with one nation, not bilateral, with many. The multinational nature of this board isn't incidental. It's central to its design. Invitations have been sent to approximately 60 countries. 60. And here's what's striking about that number. It directly parallels what Daniel described over 2,500 years ago. We'll examine that passage later. And when we do, you'll see why the with many characteristic isn't coincidental. But the real shock isn't Gaza. The real shock is who is being invited to govern. And when you see the names, when you see the mix of figures assembled, you'll understand why this feels different from anything we've seen in modern diplomacy. Now let me walk you through who was actually named to this board, because the composition tells you everything about what kind of structure this is. Pay close attention here. These names are going to become significant when we examine what Revelation says about end times authority. Each person I'm about to mention represents a different type of power, and that diversity is itself prophetically significant. The founding executive board, the core steering group, includes 7 members announced on January 16th and 17th. 7. While I'm not making a direct claim about prophetic numerology, that number is significant throughout Scripture. First, there's President Trump himself, serving as chairman. This isn't a ceremonial role. He's positioned as the central figure around whom this entire structure revolves. Remember that. Second, Marco Rubio, the current U.S. Secretary of State. His presence signals that this board has the full weight of American foreign policy behind it. Third, Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law and the architect of the Abraham Accords. His involvement connects this board directly to the previous peace framework and suggests continuity with those agreements. Now here's what's striking about Kushner's presence. The Abraham Accords already exist. The Gaza peace framework already exists. What we're seeing isn't the creation of something new. It's the strengthening of something that already exists. And Daniel's prophecy uses a very specific word. Not create a covenant, but confirm a covenant. Strengthen it. Make it binding. That distinction matters enormously, and I'll show you exactly why when we examine Daniel 9:27. Fourth, Steve Witkoff, the U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, who declared Phase 2 underway on January 14th. Fifth, and this is where it gets interesting, Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Blair has been involved in Middle East peace efforts for years, but his presence here signals something beyond American initiative. This is multinational. This is a coalition. Sixth, Ajay Banga, the president of the World Bank. Stop there for a moment. Banga doesn't represent a nation. He represents a global financial institution. His authority comes from economic leverage, not territorial sovereignty. He has no army. He has no flag. but he controls capital flows that affect billions of people. That's a different kind of power. And it's exactly the kind of power Revelation 17 describes when it talks about kings who receive authority without kingdoms. Remember his name, because when we examine that passage, figures like Banga will suddenly make the prophecy concrete in a way previous generations could never have imagined. Seventh, Mark Rowan, a private equity billionaire and CEO of Apollo Global Management.
7
Again,
minutes.
not a government official, not a diplomat, a figure whose power comes from capital, not citizenship. His inclusion signals that this board operates at the intersection of government and global finance. Do you see what's happening here? This isn't a traditional diplomatic structure. This is a mix of government officials, former leaders, international institution heads, and private sector billionaires, all operating as a steering group with oversight authority. These figures operate above normal political accountability. They're not elected by the people they'll govern. They're appointed. Trump called it the greatest and most prestigious board ever assembled. But here's the prophetic question. Revelation says the final coalition won't look like ancient empires. It won't look like armies and conquests. It will look like power without borders, authority without traditional kingdoms, influence concentrated in the hands of figures who rule through coordination, not crowns. But what gives this board its legitimacy? What makes it legal in the eyes of the international community? That's what we need to examine next. Here's what most people don't realize about this Board of Peace. It isn't just a U.S. initiative with international support. It has formal UN Security Council authorization. Resolution 2803 passed in November 2025. 13 votes in favor. This resolution authorized the establishment of a temporary international stabilization force to operate in Gaza. It gave legal framework to the multinational presence we've been discussing. Now here's the part that sounds like Revelation 17, and I need you to pay very close attention to what this passage actually says. Now we come to the passage that has so many people drawing connections to what we're seeing unfold. I want to walk through this carefully, because understanding what Revelation 17 actually says, and what it doesn't say, is essential for proper discernment. Revelation 17:12-13. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Let me break this down, phrase by phrase, because every detail matters. First, 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet. These aren't traditional monarchs ruling over established territories. They don't have kingdoms in the usual sense. They're kings without the normal trappings of kingship, without borders, without thrones, without hereditary claims to power. Yet they function as kings. They wield authority. They exercise influence. Now think about what we just examined. The World Bank president doesn't have a kingdom. Private equity billionaires don't have kingdoms. International institution heads don't have kingdoms. They have something else entirely. Economic leverage, institutional authority, influence that crosses borders without armies or flags. That's a different kind of power, and it's exactly what this passage describes. Previous generations couldn't imagine what kings without kingdoms would look like, but we can. We're watching them be appointed to an international board right now. Second, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Their authority is temporary. It's delegated. It's tied to a specific period and a specific alignment with the beast. The phrase 1 hour emphasizes brevity. This isn't a long-standing empire. It's a short-lived coalition that emerges for a specific purpose. Now think about the phase-based structure of the Board of Peace. Phase 1, Phase 2, future phases anticipated, temporary authority, defined periods, limited mandates that can be extended or terminated, exactly the kind of arrangement Scripture describes. Third, these have one mind. They're unified. They share a common agenda. Despite potentially different backgrounds, different interests, different spheres of influence, they operate with unified purpose. Their coordination is what makes them powerful. Now, I want to be absolutely clear here. I am not saying the Board of Peace is the fulfillment of Revelation 17. We are not in the tribulation. The Antichrist has not been revealed. The seal judgments, trumpet judgments, and bowl judgments described in Revelation have not occurred. According to the biblical timeline, Revelation 17's events take place during the latter part of the tribulation, after many other prophetic milestones have been reached. But here's what I am saying. The structure being assembled right now demonstrates that the kind of arrangement Revelation describes is possible. It shows us what kings without kingdoms could look like in the modern world. It reveals a template, and templates can be expanded. Pilot programs can go global. What works in Gaza can be applied elsewhere. Now, let me show you specifically why this structure matches the prophetic pattern. When you see the characteristics laid out side by side, the alignment becomes striking. I'm not saying this board is the fulfillment. I'm saying this board shows us what fulfillment could look like. That's an important distinction. First, it's multinational. This isn't an American initiative dressed up with international support. The Board of Peace genuinely includes figures from multiple nations and institutions. The Turkish foreign minister,
Okay, part 2. Something very important to listen to tonight.
been sent to approximately 60 countries. This is a coalition, not a unilateral action. And this connects directly to Daniel's covenant with many. The multinational nature isn't accidental. It's the defining characteristic. Daniel didn't say the covenant would be with one nation or two nations. He said, with many. And here we have invitations sent to approximately 60 countries. Second, it's time-limited and phase-based. The structure is explicitly organized around phases. Phase 1 was the ceasefire. Phase 2 is stabilization and reconstruction. Future phases are anticipated. This isn't permanent governance. It's temporary authority for specific purposes with built-in transitions. Exactly like the 1 hour of power described in Revelation 17. And here's what's significant about temporary authority. It can always be extended. It can always be expanded. What starts as a limited mandate can grow into something much larger. Third, it's technocratic. Many of the key figures don't derive their authority from democratic elections or hereditary succession. They derive it from institutional positions, economic power, or appointed roles. The World Bank president, private equity billionaires, former officials turned international coordinators. This is governance by expertise and influence, not by traditional political legitimacy. And here's what's prophetically significant. Technocratic authority operates above normal accountability. These figures answer to institutions, not to citizens. That concentration of unaccountable power is exactly what end times prophecy describes. And it connects to something we'll examine shortly about Paul's warning. Because this kind of authority doesn't look threatening. It looks reasonable. It looks competent. It looks like exactly what the world needs. That's the trap. Fourth, it uses incentives, aid, enforcement mechanisms, and oversight, rather than direct military conquest. The Board of Peace isn't sending armies to conquer Gaza. It's using reconstruction funding, security arrangements, international recognition, and coordinated pressure to shape outcomes. The power is real, but it operates through systems rather than warfare. And here's the insight I want you to hold on to, because this captures the entire prophetic significance. The 10 kings of Revelation don't need crowns. They need coordination. The end times coalition described in Scripture doesn't require traditional empires. It requires figures who can coordinate their influence toward a unified purpose. It requires a structure that can concentrate power through agreement rather than conquest. It requires exactly the kind of arrangement we're watching being assembled right now. But there's an even older prophecy we need to examine, a warning from the book of Daniel that describes how the final covenant begins. Now I need to take you to the book of Daniel, because there's a prophecy there that directly connects to the kind of multinational agreement we're examining. Daniel 9:27. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation. And that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Let me highlight the key phrases, because they match what we're seeing with striking precision. First, he shall confirm the covenant. The word confirm is significant. It doesn't say he shall create the covenant. It doesn't say he shall originate the covenant. It says confirm, or in some translations, strengthen. This suggests the covenant already exists in some form, and is then formalized or empowered by this figure. Now think about what we're watching. The Abraham Accords already exist. The Gaza peace framework already exists. The international structures for Middle East coordination already exist. What would it take for a powerful figure to confirm these existing frameworks? To strengthen them? To put his authority behind them and make them binding? That's exactly what's happening. Existing agreements are being formalized. Existing frameworks are being strengthened. Existing coordination is being institutionalized. Second, with many. This isn't a bilateral agreement between two nations. It's a covenant with many. Multiple parties, multiple nations, a multinational framework. The structure includes representatives from multiple nations and international institutions. This is explicitly, by design, a many nations arrangement. Daniel saw this exact characteristic over 2,500 years ago. Third, for 1 week. In prophetic language, 1 week typically represents 7 years, the duration of the tribulation. This covenant has a specific time frame. It's not permanent. It's temporary authority for a defined period. And the Board of Peace operates on exactly this principle. Phase-based, time-limited, temporary authority with built-in transitions. Now, I want to be careful here. I am not saying the current framework is the covenant Daniel describes. We don't know that. The Antichrist hasn't been revealed. The specific prophetic conditions haven't been met. We are not in the tribulation period. But what I am saying is this. Gaza appears to be functioning as a pilot theater where multinational coordination is being tested. The structures being built, the frameworks being established, the precedents being set. All of this creates infrastructure that could eventually support something larger. This is stage setting. This is template building. This is machinery being assembled. And Daniel says something else about this covenant that should arrest our attention. He says it has a midpoint. In the midst of the week. That's when betrayal happens. That's when the agreement is broken. That's when the abomination of desolation occurs. Every covenant that promises peace carries within it the possibility of betrayal. And here's what's crucial. The betrayal comes precisely when people feel most secure, when the framework is established,
Hey, we got 7 minutes.
when the cooperation is working, when everyone has relaxed. That leads us to a warning from the Apostle Paul that directly addresses the deceptive nature of end times peace. Because Paul understood something about the psychology of false security that we desperately need to understand. Now I need to show you something that Paul wrote, because it directly addresses the moment we're living in. 1 Thessalonians 5:3. For when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Did you catch the trigger? When they shall say, peace and safety. Not when they say war, not when they say danger, not when they say crisis, when they say peace and safety. Now think about the language being used right now. Ceasefire, stabilization, reconstruction, international cooperation, security frameworks, peace plan, board of peace. What is all of this language designed to communicate? Peace and safety. And here's what's crucial. Paul says this is precisely when sudden destruction comes. Not during the chaos, during the calm. Not when everyone is panicking, when everyone is exhaling with relief. The danger isn't in the war. The danger is in the peace that follows. This connects to Jesus' warning in Luke 21 about hearts being overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life. And so that day come upon you unawares. The word he uses is snare. Think about what a snare is. A snare isn't loud. A snare isn't obvious. A snare catches you precisely because you weren't expecting it. You stepped into it while your guard was down, while you were focused on something else, while everything seemed calm. And what creates the condition for the snare? Not persecution, not tribulation, surfeiting, overindulgence, drunkenness, numbing distraction, cares of this life, everyday concerns that consume attention. This is why understanding that prophecy can unfold through diplomacy, not just war, is so critical. If you're only watching for invasion, you'll miss the agreement. If you're only watching for conquest, you'll miss the cooperation. If you're only watching for chaos, you'll miss the calm that Scripture warns about. That's the warning, and I don't think we can afford to miss it. Now, let me be direct about why I believe this moment is different from previous peace efforts. There have been other peace plans. Camp David, Oslo, the Roadmap, the Trump peace plan from 2020, various ceasefires and temporary agreements over decades. What makes this different? First, previous approaches were primarily bilateral. They focused on getting two parties to agree, Israel and Egypt, Israel and the Palestinians. This approach is fundamentally multinational. It's not about two parties reaching agreement. It's about dozens of nations coordinating under one framework. Second, previous approaches lacked the oversight structure we're seeing now. They were agreements, not governing bodies. The Board of Peace isn't just an agreement. It's an institution with authority, membership, phases, and enforcement mechanisms. Third, and this is crucial, previous approaches didn't have the global infrastructure that exists today. Real-time communication, instant fund transfers, international legal frameworks,
We'll do some short clips.
multinational deployment capabilities. The technology and systems that make coordinated global governance possible simply didn't exist during previous peace efforts. Fourth, previous approaches operated largely outside formal international authorization. This one has UN Security Council backing. It's codified, it's legal, it's official. The difference isn't just degree, it's kind. We're not looking at another version of the same peace process that's been tried before. We're looking at a structurally different approach that aligns with prophetic descriptions in ways previous efforts never did. Multinational, authorized, technocratic, enforcement-based, centrally coordinated, time-limited but expandable. Those aren't just political characteristics. Those are prophetic markers, and recognizing them is why watching carefully matters. Watch for economic power being coordinated under political authority. Second, watch scope. Right now, the focus is Gaza. But Trump has explicitly said this model could be expanded to resolve conflicts worldwide. Third, watch authority. The International Stabilization Force is currently planned for Gaza, but watch for any expansion of that authority. Watch for any presence that moves closer to Jerusalem. Watch for any framework that begins to address the Temple Mount or the holy places. Fourth, watch the language. When you hear peace and safety, when you hear stabilization and cooperation and international framework, remember what Paul warned. These aren't neutral terms. These are the exact conditions that precede sudden destruction. The language of peace is the language of the snare.
Many seem to be confused because they do not understand the book of Revelation. However, what if there was an...
Okay, that was a lecture there. Something important we have to play once in a while. So we'll get going on the short clips.
I'm like, oh, I'm from Northern Canada. I'm used to my 40. And then everyone's like, oh, like the grid will not be able to take it. So I called someone in Alberta, and apparently we're having 6 feet of snow and our grid can't take it, and we're at -40. So it's like snowmageddon everywhere. But this year has been super strange. And it's only like 1 month into it, because apparently Northern Europe is getting record snowfalls. I don't know if you guys heard about Kamchatka, Russia. It's called the Kamchatka Krai, which is like the end, the peninsula, or the end of Russia. Let me just show you. These are not AI generated videos. I don't either, by the way. So you've got this one from a news source, and then this. Look at this. This is not AI generated. This is literally Russia right now, or well, 5 days ago. Look at the height of the snow. It's insane. And again, Kamchatka, Russia, buried in snow, absolutely buried. So then I started looking up snow record falls in Mongolia, and they've had huge snowfalls. Japan just got 100 inches 2 days ago at a ski resort. Like, it's honestly insane. Alberta, as I said, is getting it. Northern Scandinavian countries are getting it. And I'm just wondering, is Ted Cruz still in Texas? because if he's not and he's made it to Cancun, we're so dicker dudes. Like, we're definitely getting that storm, because look at my map and what it shows for alerts. So we're just on the cusp of like the ice storm warning and the winter warning. We're just like northeast of Dallas. But look how much this spans. This is insane. Like, we've got cold extreme warnings. Now, I know my Canadian audience is going to be like, how cold is it? Well, right now we're still in the pluses, and I'm talking about Celsius. But on Monday, it's supposed to get to minus 13 degrees Celsius. And that's pretty cold for down here. Like, dude, like super cold for down here. And so, yeah, I'm kind of wondering if we're going to make it. And what does the rest of you guys, like North Dakota, do you guys have any pictures? New York, do you have any pictures? Alberta, everybody add some pictures in the comment section so that we can grab data.
She's from Texas, Kay. Well, Canada, but
fully exposed. The dots are connecting. The wheels are actually turning. And trust me, once you see their plan, it should terrify every single American. And spoiler alert, they've already put it into motion. Wait until you see this undercover interview that I have that exposes their plan. Plus, it makes what is happening in Minnesota make perfect sense. This is going to be a good show today. Meanwhile, the mugshots are out, arrests are rolling, and Don Lemon is basically daring Pam Bondi to come and get him. We've got the latest from Minneapolis, and yes, President Trump was right about everything. The media? Humiliated and forced to face reality. New stats are dropping showing Trump is making America safe again. If this is the America you voted for, smash that like button for me and share this video. All right, things got a little awkward for the media this week. The New York Times dropped this hit piece claiming 45 current and former employees of the FBI say changes made by Kash Patel are undermining the agency and making America less safe. Well, fast forward a couple of hours later, and CBS confirms reality doesn't care about narratives. Murders are actually down more than 20% from the year before, and it's the lowest murder rate since 1900. No one alive today has ever lived in a safer America. And look at this. Carjackings down 43%, deadly overdoses down more than 20%. That's not luck. That's law enforcement. This is what happens when administration cracks down on drug boats and illegal criminals. Less crime, fewer overdoses, more Americans alive. That's what results look like. And here's the part they really don't want to say out loud. Black lives are being saved the most under President Trump. See, the murder rate is higher in Black communities. That's been a statistic forever, which means there are thousands more Black Americans alive today because of Donald Trump's policies and ICE doing their jobs. I'm pretty sure this makes Donald Trump the greatest Black Lives Matter president of all times. Not by slogans, not by hashtags, but by results. You would think fewer murders would be worth celebrating for everybody, right? But Democrats are too busy defending violent illegal criminals to notice Americans are still alive.
If you're looking for an antidote to many of the issues that we have faced over the last several weeks, there's a very easy answer. And it's for this huge...
The Democrats' plan for a path to...
Hey, our TikTok lady.
I was listening to some of the sound that they have had on the show this week, and it's like ratchet up, right? Like even for them, because it's getting more and more and more and more aggressive. And yesterday I played some of this sound for you. And the day before, actually, they had Pam Grier, who is a Black actress on, and Pam talked about growing up in 1945. She was born in 1945, growing up in the 50s and the 60s in Ohio, and how her mother had to actually have her like avoid certain trees on their way home when they were walking home, because certain trees actually, I'll just say it. I mean, it's unfortunate to even talk about it. It turns out it can't possibly be true because it's just talking about lynchings. It couldn't be true because I did a deep dive on this, and the last sort of official time this ever happened in Ohio was 1911. There were some unofficial reports of 1930, and what Pam Grier, I mean, I hate to doubt her memory. She was born in 1945. That really doesn't add up. And nobody on the show, I'm not going to play it for you because it's sort of morbid, but nobody on the show even bothered to push back in any way, shape, or form. They just like lapped it up and they took it as a given. And so that to me was sort of the first example of, wow, the show just, they had Ma'am Dami on the other day. They had Jasmine Crockett. Now this woman, it's constant. Okay. It's constant. It's just bash Trump, bash Trump, bash Trump, bash the GOP, bash him again. And after a while, you're like, okay, I can't take them seriously. But the reality is, believe it or not, people, I mean, the ratings are down, but some still actually watch this. And so they're trying to seed themselves into popular culture and into the minds of people, which is sort of a terrifying view of the world. And then I was like, gosh, I think the FCC should really do something. Well, sure enough, late yesterday, Brendan Carr came forward with a letter, and he made it really clear that they've got to actually invoke the equal time. Guess what? The View really is in big trouble this time. I was listening to some of the sound that they have had on the show this week, and it's like ratchet up, right? Like even for them, because it's getting more and more and more and more aggressive. And yesterday, I played some of this sound for you. And the day before, actually, they had Pam Grier, who is a Black actress on, and Pam talked about growing up in 1945. She was born in 1945, growing up in the 50s and the 60s in Ohio, and how her mother had to actually have her like avoid certain trees on their way home when they were walking home, because certain trees actually, I'll just say it. I mean, it's unfortunate to even talk about it. It turns out it can't possibly be true because she's talking about lynchings. It couldn't be true because I did a deep dive on this, and the last sort of official time this ever happened in Ohio was 1911. There were some unofficial reports of 1930, and what Pam Grier, I mean, I hate to doubt her memory. She was born in 1945. That really doesn't add up. And nobody on the show, I'm not going to play it for you because it's sort of morbid, but nobody on the show even bothered to push back in any way, shape, or form. They just like lapped it up and they took it as a given. And so that to me was sort of the first example of, wow, the show just, they had Ma'am Dami on the other day. They had Jasmine Crockett. Now this woman, it's constant. Okay. It's constant. It's just bash Trump, bash Trump, bash Trump, bash the GOP, bash him again. And after a while, you're like, okay, I can't take them seriously. But the reality is, believe it or not, people, I mean, the ratings are down, but some still actually watch this. And so they're trying to seed themselves into popular culture and into the minds of people, which is sort of a terrifying view of the world. And then I was like, gosh, I think the FCC should really do something. Well, sure enough, late yesterday, Brendan Carr came forward with a letter, and he made it really clear that they've got to actually invoke the equal time. Guess what? The View really is in big trouble this time. I was listening to some of the sound that they have had on the show this week, and it's like ratchet up, right? Like even for them, because it's getting more and more and more and more aggressive. Oh. And yesterday, I played some of this sound for you.
Sorry about that. That was good. Anybody catch this one?
Dave Hawk, who broke this story wide open. Today, I'm introducing a bill to award Nick Shirley with the Congressional Medal for his explosive work in exposing astronomical fraud in Minnesota. And the reason I'm doing this is because the American people are sick and tired of this, and they're sick and tired of mainstream media not covering any of it. The biggest question that most Americans, however, have is this: is this incompetence at the executive level with the governor and attorney general? Are they involved and complicit? I'm going to start with you, Ms. Robbins.
Thank you, sir. My understanding is that they were certainly aware of the fraud and they did nothing to stop it. And there were plenty of opportunities. And their commissioners and their agencies also undermined efforts to tighten internal controls.
And according to Ms. Rarick, I believe you said that they were actually going after whistleblowers to suppress the expose of this fraud. Is that correct?
That is what the whistleblowers have said repeatedly.
Thank you. One thing that is so alarming is the reporting that many of these fraudulent companies are then donating the stolen money back to the same Democrats that are protecting them and advocate for these very programs. Is that correct, Mr. Hudson?
I would agree with that statement. Well,
we just had one of my Democrat colleagues said these are just opinions. Are these guys donating money back to Democrats?
Yes, they are.
I'd like to enter into the record, Mr. Chairman, an article from Breitbart News saying, with the title being Database Searches Show Somali Fraudsters Funding Democrat Politicians. So these aren't opinions.
Without objection.
It's actually reporting on this. Are you guys aware? You guys are elected officials in Minnesota, right? Are you guys aware of the reporting that some of the stolen money is getting funneled back to the Islamic terror group Al-Shabaab in Somalia? Mr. Robbins.
Yes, sir. And we have evidence of it going back as far as 2012, where a man was convicted of sending $21,000 to Al-Shabaab. In 2011, 2 Minnesota women were convicted of sending money to different groups. Someone else, we have multiple references of how the Al-Shabaab takes a cut when the money gets to Somalia through the Hawala network. So I think there's ample evidence on this and federal convictions.
Yeah, that's outrageous. Obviously, one of the biggest reasons so many Americans are outraged by this massive exposure is because we generously and often foolishly allow immigrants and people into our country, and then they rob the American people blind while our debt skyrockets and the American people struggle to make ends meet. Are you guys hearing from your constituents the same outrage that I'm hearing from mine about this issue?
Minnesotans are fed up. Everywhere I go in the state, Minnesotans are so frustrated. As I said in my opening remarks, we are a highly taxed state, and they are angry that this much of their money, $9 billion, is being absconded by criminals.
Mr. Hudson, are you just hearing from Republicans on this, or are Democrat constituents like, oh my God, I'm struggling to put my kids in school, struggling to make ends meet, and my tax dollars are being robbed by people, and then they're sending it all over the place, and this is complete fraud. What is going on, and why hasn't anything been done about it?
I'll give you a personal example. So my family, my in-laws in particular, are politically diverse. A lot of them vote for Democrats, and they're fairly apolitical. They're not like me, all plugged in. And so I kind of use them as a bellwether for what the people are thinking. Across the board, everybody is upset about this fraud.
And I'm guessing when you guys bring this up, whether it's to the Waltz administration, whether it's to the AG, the number one thing that comes back at you is you're a racist, you're a white supremacist, or you're an Islamophobe, as we've seen Governor Waltz now trying to answer for these questions. He's doing it at the national level. Do you guys hear the same thing at the state level as well?
Yes, absolutely. They always pivot to the divisive. As I stated in my opening statement, it's diversion, right? We're going to talk about personalities. We're going to talk about partisan politics. We're going to find some way to get people yelling at each other rather than looking at the problem.
Or, like you've heard my colleagues do on this panel, it's Donald Trump, baby.
Yep.
It's all about Donald Trump, right? The old pivot. We're not going to talk about what's going on in Somalia and not going to talk about what's going on in Minnesota with this massive fraud scandal. We're going to talk about Donald Trump. I want to thank and acknowledge the independent reporters, Nick Shirley and Dave Hawk.
Okay, that was a good one. This one here is 9. Let me know if I played it. I'm not sure if I played this one or not.
We don't really value cash and Kardashian lips and fake boobs and stuff like that very highly. Actually, you cannot even own land in Greenland. You can get an allotment for your house, and then you own the house on top of the land. But Greenlanders don't believe in the land is for one person, is for everyone. And so is the seas, like the riches that we have there. So it's a big miscalculation that he thinks that Greenlanders would be incited by cash or something like that. We're not. And even if you were to say like $100,000 per person or something like that, we wouldn't give up free healthcare. We wouldn't give up free education. We wouldn't give up being a part of Europe. We wouldn't give up on our sovereignty eventually. And we're a very sovereign people within the Kingdom of Denmark. We're autonomous right now. We do not want to be rich like the Americans are. See how greedy they are. They're even trying to shoot their friends or invade their friends just for greed. And we know that there's minerals and oils possibly in our underground, and that's worth so much more even than that. But even if we didn't have that, we would still not be bought. So everyone here
How's this
knows
one?
about
Everybody
the
see it?
Inuit in Alaska and all of the native tribes, Indians, American Indians who are there. Their land was taken from them and they haven't been treated that well in America. And we know that Trump is very much surrounding himself, at least with the white power people. And we are not white, as you can see, we are of color. And so we know our rights probably would be taken away. And we also know that we're very good as we are together with Denmark. As mentioned before, we have free healthcare, we have free study. Whatever you want to study, you can do that for free. And actually, government will give you money to study. So while you're studying, you're getting a grant from your government. So all of that we wouldn't trade for, like the welfare state, we wouldn't trade for anything in America. But also, you have to remember, a lot of Greenlanders have family, like their mother or father or grandmother or grandfather who's Danish. We do have a 400 years history together or more in terms of being interconnected in that way. So, and we're also seeing a lot of protests in America right now that is unsettling with the ICE agents who are sort of going after a lot of people. And from here, it looks like maybe he's going a lot after brown people. And we are considered brown people, as you can see. So, yeah, we would rather stay with Denmark. Thank you. America has had up to 17 bases here, and they have closed them all down except for one, the Bidufik Space Base. And America could amp up the base presence, their military presence, and even their military capabilities here all they wanted to. So that is not the argument. And of course, everyone in Greenland knows this. We may not be many, but we read, we're educated, and we know about the news of the world, right? Especially regarding our own country. So we know about the treaties that we have with America. This is very much akin to when you have a dog sledge team, when he's using that analogy, and one of the dogs all of a sudden turns around and bites you. You have to take it out of the kennel. You have to take it outside and shoot it. Of course, we're not going to shoot Americans. We're peaceful people, but you cannot trust that dog anymore forever. America has 10,000 soldiers who are for combat in Arctic society. Finland alone has 35,000. We also could impose, if we wanted to escalate stuff, we could also impose like dropping all American treasury bonds, right? That would hurt. We also have, when you look at France and Canada and all of the allies that are coming to our rush right now, a very big arsenal actually of soldiers and of weapons especially. I mean, America had to borrow Denmark's warship for Arctic seas. So, I mean, it's not a given that America would win here. We fought alongside America in a lot of other wars around the world because we wanted to adhere to the treaties that we had gone through. But they have seen that some of the street fighting in Syria, for example, has been very, very hard on Western soldiers, right? I imagine it would probably be the same in Greenland. It would be like something else. So I wouldn't laugh it off, but of course nobody wants war and nobody wants to be invaded. Of course there are bad chapters with Denmark and Greenland because we have a 400-year history. But actually I also saw a YouTube video that kind of emerged recently that said American soldiers were very bad to some of our people here too in Osuk, which is a small settlement in here. Some of the elders that remember them also said, well, those guys were really not that good. So it really doesn't matter what happened between Denmark and Greenland. We'll figure that out. Denmark and Greenland is fine as we are. We will figure it out. If we want to be independent, Greenlanders should be able to decide that, not with pressure from a superpower somewhere. And we are well aware that if we became independent tomorrow, he would just invade us because he would have no problems with NATO, Europe, you know, everything else. So I think he's banking sort of in a very insulting way that Greenlanders are like stupid, uneducated people who doesn't follow the news around the world, and we're not. It's the exact opposite. We're going to be here hundreds of years after Donald Trump. Even if he invaded us, I think we would just wait him out like bad weather. Everyone here knows that the weather decides. If we get a storm, we may have to hunker down for a day or two, and we will hunker down for a year or two, or even 10 years or 20 years, and then we'll go back to Denmark as soon as Trump and his likes were gone. Everyone wants a peaceful solution. Donald Trump is the only one who seems to wants to fight, and I don't even think the American military would want to fight. It just seems crazy and unhinged. It seems like he's going to pay off some of his wealthy donors so he can run for president a third time, to be honest. That's what most Greenlanders are thinking. We don't know, but that's what we're thinking. They already did a poll last year. 6% only was pro-American. I have seen a lot of videos on social media lately where they are saying, I'm sorry, I was wrong about MAGA, I was wrong about America. So I would think it would be even less percent now. So only 6% a year ago, and I think probably even fewer now. 85% overwhelmingly said no last year. As I said, I think the percentage is higher now. So no, decisively no. Nobody wants NATO to be pitted against each other. Nobody. I mean, nobody, except maybe Donald Trump, and nobody knows why. We're thinking, is he too good friends with Putin, or what is happening here? Nobody wants Greenland to be a battleground. But we have seen a lot of nations kind of step up. And as I mentioned, they're trying to do the last friendly gesture towards America, as well as displaying we do actually have military capabilities. We still want to be friends. But as you saw today, the Canadian Prime Minister, he went to China to try and make new relations. So if Donald Trump wants a new world order, okay, then that's what he's going to get. 74% of Americans, ordinary Americans, do not want to invade Greenland. And I think probably amongst those 74%, most of the military capability is probably in there because they know they would be attacking a NATO ally. They know they would be going into a European country. And since World War II, you know, the Western Hemisphere has kind of banded together. So it's very weird that he's trying to do that. Some Europeans are hoping that maybe he's just trying to get them to really amp up their military quick. I don't think so. I think he wants Greenland, but we'll see.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that one. I didn't know. I'll probably go to 9 o'clock, you guys. Let's do a mini video.
But a knight are you, Sir Duncan the Tall?
Who wants
You ain't my daddy. Oh! Hit my sock.
What's up, guys? Benny, either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Nancy Pelosi is now the villain of the Democrat Party. She's been thrown into the proverbial wood chipper of history as Democrats have moved on and blamed her for all of their recent failures. Her Skeletor-like witch hands clinging to power for 40 years in San Francisco, a gerrymandered district, to ensure that she has permanent power forever. She doesn't even live in her district. She lives out on some palatial winery. She's made hundreds of millions of dollars insider trading. She is a traitor to our nation. And with a legacy like that, and many questions about January 6th now hounding her, Nancy Pelosi is getting drunk. And she's doing it in public, and it's really embarrassing. Like here, she's speaking at a funeral, and she's like clearly blackout. The memes were great about this one, by the way.
Buddy, you're a boy, make a big noise playing in the street.
You love to see it. Nancy Pelosi's done this a lot. Now, sometimes Nancy Pelosi just forgets where she is.
But to be clear, you're not taking any arrows out of your quiver. You're not ruling anything out.
Good morning. Sunday morning. We have a responsibility. We take an oath to protect and defend.
She doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know what she's saying. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's done this on TV a lot. She's now doing it more and more in public.
The
Some of
first bill.
Some of this stuff is really hard to watch.
It's the first bill.
Check us out.
The first bill that protect our assault, our bill. COVID. Shots in the arm, money in the pockets, children in school, people at work. The infrastructure bill.
She does this a lot, by the way. Listen.
When we saved the Affordable Care Act, remember when? Yes. he was going to, repeal and replace, but whatever the replace was, nobody ever knew. We had 10,000 events throughout the country where people came forward and told their stories. Nothing more eloquent than that. Certainly more eloquent than the misrepresentation of the president, former president, former occupant of the White House, when he says Obamacare sucks. When we say
it's so hard. It's honestly, it's tough to watch, because what you're seeing is somebody who's clearly like going through her own Joe Biden situation. Nancy Pelosi showed up drunk again, and it again is really tough to watch. She doesn't do many public events. This is what it looked like the last time she was out in public. Confused, diseased, disoriented, Nancy Pelosi muddles through a slurred speech, unaware that her mic is not on. She didn't even know what the hell is happening. And listen to some of this. She doesn't know where she is.
For hosting us today. This is a remarkable place. I hope you had a chance to see the.
It's tough to watch, really. It's tough to watch. Not just a magician. Nancy Pelosi, 85, is accused of being drunk during rambling speech at the memorial for Grateful Dead star Bob Weir. So Grateful Dead star Bob Weir dies. Okay, it's just what happens, right? Some of these, boomer icons. And Nancy Pelosi goes and tries to deliver a speech at this event, or whatever you could call it. And it sounds like this.
Joyous it is to see everyone here. I know we come here with a heavy heart, but also with gratitude. Gratitude for the life of Bobby Weir, so fully lived, so generously shared, that even in grief, the music keeps playing. Bobby Weir was not just a musician, a magician too. He was a force of nature. He was a force of nature, restless, searching, curious, and kind. He helped create a sound that became a language, a culture, and became a sense of community. You all know that. A sound that invited people not merely to listen, but to belong. And so we were welcomed by the mayor to San Francisco, which just loves Bobby Weir. Don't we love Bobby Weir?
That's right, guys.
She doesn't look good, man. She clearly doesn't know what she's saying. Notice how she's like staring at the prompter and like having to get major
Bobby Weir was not just a musician.
A magician.
A magician too.
Sure, he was a magician.
He understood something essential about America.
What is it?
That our strength and our improvisation, our diversity and our willingness to learn from one another. Bobby really loved democracy. He loved our country. And you know what he wanted everybody to do? Vote.
Oh, man. Oh, it's hard. It's hard to watch. Honestly, it's hard to watch. It's like the Joe Biden stuff. Here we go. Fancy Pants Nancy. Should not be smoking weed before a speech. Nancy Pelosi channeling her inner Bob Weir. Look at that. Slurring words, off-key, singing, magenta suit, turning a memorial into a vote rally. Musician. Nancy is a real wizard, pulling off a 65% returns since 2023. Would you look at that? Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is facing backlash. Self-proclaimed deadhead appears to stumble over her words. And his legacy, she calls him a magician. Drone splattered over San Francisco. Nancy Pelosi ridiculed for being drunk again in public. I mean, look at this photo. It's perfect, right? We deserve a better political class in this country. There is no appeared to it. She was drunk out of her mind. The daily occurrence, put the cork back in the bottle. It's going to be when you go to, the other night? Nah, it was trash beyond belief. I just looked drunk. When a public figure turns a solemn moment into an awkward spectacle, the internet is going to notice. A memorial should honor the person being remembered, not spark a whole new round of secondhand embarrassment. I'm going to go out on a limb, short one, but my guess is she was actually drunk. Good Monday morning. That's right. Nancy Pelosi drunk again. I mean, she does drink in public, right? Like she's drinking.
Nancy, can you tell us why we have all the $150 billion going to Ukraine when we have homeless on the streets in your own city? Nancy, can I get some stock trading tips on how to get semiconductors in Taiwan?
This is how all of this criminal class should be treated everywhere that they go. Nancy Pelosi trying to enjoy a drink in public. What is she doing? She's just sitting there drinking alone. She should be mocked and ridiculed. And, well, the next thing to happen to Nancy Pelosi is going to really make her hit the bottle. It is the January 6th investigation. Nancy Pelosi not too happy being asked this question. Was she drunk here?
I'm going to go to the 2-hour mark.
I don't know. Sure sounds like
2 more minutes, you guys.
Mean drunk.
Congresswoman Pelosi, are you at all concerned that the new January 6th committee will find you liable for that day? Are you at all concerned about the new January 6th committee finding you liable for that day? Why did you refuse the National Guard on January 6th?
Shut up. I did not refuse the National Guard. The president didn't send it. Why are you coming here with Republican talking points as if you're a serious journalist?
The American people want to know. We still have questions. Thank you.
Okay, I'll do a couple more. Here's a new one.
This is the thing. This is the moment we will look back on and say that's when it all changed. 11 hours ago, while most of America was sleeping, a federal appeals court in Washington, D.C. issued a ruling that, and I need you to understand the weight of this, fundamentally rewrote the rules governing presidential power in the United States of America. If you're just finding this channel, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications because what's unfolding over the next 72 hours will be studied in law schools for the next century. And you do not want to piece this together after the fact. Let me show you what happened. At 6:47 this morning Eastern Time, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals didn't just deny Donald Trump's emergency stay application. They obliterated his entire legal strategy. And here's the part that matters. Trump's lawyers filed that emergency application at 11 p.m. last night. Less than 8 hours later, the court responded. They didn't schedule oral arguments. They didn't ask for additional briefing. They didn't do any of the things courts do when they're genuinely wrestling with a difficult question. They just said no, per curiam. That's the legal term. It means by the court, all 3 judges, unanimous, no dissent, no reservations, complete agreement. And the language they used, listen to this carefully. Quote, former President Trump's alleged efforts to remain in power despite losing the 2020 election were unprecedented in our nation's history. Now, I've been covering legal proceedings for a long time. Courts don't use the word unprecedented casually. That word is doing enormous work in that sentence. It's saying this isn't a close call. This isn't a novel legal question requiring delicate constitutional balancing. This is a former president who allegedly tried to hold on to power after losing an election, and no version of executive immunity was ever designed to protect that conduct. The court issued 4 critical holdings. Write these down. 1, complete rejection of absolute immunity. 2, Trump's actions were private, not official acts of the presidency. 3, the charges against him can survive appeal. 4, a legal framework that now applies to every pending criminal case Trump faces, every single one. Here's why this matters in a way cable news isn't explaining properly. Think about the major presidential scandals in American history: Watergate, Iran-Contra, Clinton's impeachment. In every single one of those cases, the president either resigned before criminal prosecution, received a pardon, or faced consequences that never rose to the level of criminal trial. Richard Nixon was pardoned by Gerald Ford before prosecutors could indict him. Ronald Reagan's subordinates took the fall for Iran-Contra. Bill Clinton was impeached but never criminally charged. What's happening right now has no precedent, none. A former president is facing simultaneous criminal prosecution in 4 separate jurisdictions, while his immunity defenses collapse in real time. This is constitutional territory the founders anticipated might become necessary, but desperately hoped would never be tested. Well, it's being tested now. Now, Trump's team had a backup plan. They always have a backup plan. The Supreme Court, 6 conservative justices, 3 of them appointed by Trump himself, Chief Justice John Roberts, who has historically shown concern for the court's institutional reputation. Surely someone on that court would step in, pump the brakes, preserve some measure of dignity for the presidency as an institution. Here's what's actually happening. Radio silence, not from the liberal justices, from the conservatives, from Roberts, from Allo, from Thomas, from the justices Trump himself elevated to the bench. Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, Barrett, nothing. No emergency intervention, no shadow docket maneuver, no indication that any justice views this case as requiring the court's immediate attention. Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, one of Trump's most reliable defenders, said this out loud. If the Supreme Court doesn't intervene, we could be looking at a criminally convicted nominee in 2024, a Republican senator talking about the Republican frontrunner, just saying that in public. If you're finding value in this breakdown, smash that like button. It helps the algorithm push this analysis to people who need to understand what's actually happening, not the sanitized version you're getting elsewhere. Here's where the math becomes brutal. Judge Tanya Chutkan, who's overseeing the federal election interference case in Washington, has invoked the Speedy Trial Act. That statute requires a trial to begin within 70 days once the immunity question becomes final. The appeals clock started ticking this morning, February 12th. That's when the DC Circuit is expected to issue its full opinion. That's 28 days from now. After that, prosecutors can push for an immediate trial date, Judge Chutan's original trial date, March 4th. If the Supreme Court declines to intervene, that date becomes immovable, fixed, locked. And here's the thing about unanimous 3-judge panel rulings. They almost never get overturned by an en banc review of the full circuit. And the Supreme Court has already declined one immunity-based petition from Trump in this case. The window is closing. The exits are disappearing. And Trump's legal team knows it. I want you to understand what's happening inside Trump's legal operation right now. They've seen the witness list. Mike Pence, his own vice president, Mark Meadows, his own chief of staff, Pat Cipollone, his own White House counsel, Cassidy Hutchinson, who was in the room for everything. They've reviewed the evidence prosecutors have assembled, text messages, emails, phone records, the January 6th footage that the whole world has already seen. They know what's coming. And the response, an endless stream of Truth Social posts, all caps, claims of election interference, attacks on Judge Tutkan, accusations of bias, warnings to his supporters. Then came the post that set off alarm bells across every law enforcement agency in Washington. Quote, if these witch hunts don't stop, our country will face problems the likes of which we've never seen. Read that again. A former president facing criminal prosecution for allegedly trying to overturn an election is now threatening civil unrest if the prosecution continues. This isn't political rhetoric. This is potential witness intimidation. This is potential obstruction. Every post he makes becomes evidence. It gets screenshotted, time-stamped, archived, and handed to prosecutors who are building an obstruction case in real time. He cannot stop himself, and every word he types makes their job easier. Washington, D.C. right now looks like it's preparing for war. Capitol Police are on high alert. Security barriers are being erected around the federal courthouse. Counter-protest groups are organizing. Law enforcement is coordinating across multiple agencies. This is day one of a 70-day countdown. FBI threat assessments have been elevated. Joint terrorism task forces are monitoring extremist chatter online. U.S. Marshals are preparing enhanced courtroom security for prosecutors, witnesses, and the judge herself. January 6th taught them not to dismiss this man's rhetoric. 3 years ago, weeks of false fraud claims and calls to fight like hell culminated in a violent attack on the Capitol. The pattern is documented. Officials in Washington aren't sleeping tonight. Let me be, okay? Stay with me here because what I'm about to walk you through, this is the thing. This is the moment we will look back on and say that's when it all changed. 11 hours ago, while most of America was sleeping, a federal appeals court in Washington, D.C. issued a ruling that, and I need you to understand.
Okay, everybody. I think 4 hours is enough until, I guess, tomorrow night at 5, unless something develops tomorrow. So, everyone have a good weekend. Thanks all the mods. Okay, Carol, Tim, Lucy, and Ann must have been sleeping tonight. So, God bless everybody. Love all. Remember, please, it's a light. Stay safe, Stay strong, play. Never give up. Signing off for tonight till tomorrow evening 5. Chico Dude.